All right, welcome back to the show. Today, I want to talk about kind of some, thoughts going on with a conversation that I had a couple of weeks ago, going to a lot of masterminds and events and what's being talked about there, and then some things that have been talked about on social media by gurus, educators, whatever you want to call them, and take you a little bit behind the scenes. This is actually my third time recording this show, so hopefully I'll get it right. Had audio problems, video problems, so hopefully I am trying a couple new things out, so hopefully everything sounds and looks good here, but I'm going to get into it. So does unit count matter? Or when it comes to self-storage, does square footage matter? And the answer is it depends. So a lot of times when you see these gurus talking about, I've got 5,000 units. Or you go to an event and someone stand up and they're like, I've got a million square feet of self-storage. Immediately you're kind of like, oh, wow, that's a ton. This guy's, or girl is doing really well, making a lot of money, has a great portfolio, all these things. But you've got to kind of look, kind of peel the layers back and look behind the scenes and see what it really looks like, because it may not be as what you think. And I say this because I don't want to say it wasn't a problem, but just this is spurred by a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a buddy. We're kind of, not that we were looking at someone else's portfolio, but we were talking about, hey, this guy wants to do this, and this is how his portfolio looks right now. And we started diving into it, and we're like, well, this guy also has two partners, a bunch of investors, and they're probably not cash flowing on deals, even though he's got a ton of real estate, ton of units, and he claims that he has a bunch of, a dollar amount worth of real estate. You can have $1 billion worth of real estate, and it could be worth $1 billion, and you're not cash flowing, and you have no equity, or it could be even worse. You could be negative equity. So when someone says, I've got $100 million worth of real estate, $1 billion worth of real estate, what does that really look like? There's a lot of things that go in there. And I think it was a couple shows ago, we talked about the most important aspect to real estate investing is cash flow. Well, I think, especially over the past 4 to 5 years, a lot of people have made a lot of money. That's one. And investors kind of got lazy and started going after appreciation, which is a dangerous game. And we talked about this, I believe, a couple shows ago. It's one thing to have a solid base to where you've got a good foundation, you've got good cash flowing properties, right? That can support you, your family, your team, whatever you've got. And then maybe take some riskier deals to where you're looking at some appreciation, on the back end at some point, whether you refi or sell. But you need the cash flow, especially day one. You need to cash flow. Day one, you need to get in a deal, period, right? If you break even, great. After that, you need to start cash flowing. You need to build the cash flow. And I see this with a lot of syndicators and a lot of educators, gurus, whatever you want to call them. And, they're basically keeping their teams afloat by doing deals, and their teams are getting paid off of the acquisition fee of the property or properties. And they're getting management fees. They're just getting fees. They're not necessarily getting cash flow from the rent. So that's one thing to look at. Kind of what I'm getting at is, don't compare what you're doing to anybody else. Buddy I was talking to when we were kind of talking through this, he owns, I don't remember exactly how many, it's 70 to 80. I think it's single family units, maybe duplexes, triplexes in there too, but around 70, 80 units. They're all paid off. He has no debt on any of those. So he's cash flowing very well. He's got a lot of equity in those. And he's got a strong foundation, right? And he was not that he was comparing, but he was definitely looking at someone else's portfolio that they've got whatever, $200 million worth of real estate, but they have multiple partners. This guy that's got 70, 80 units that are paid off, it's just him and his wife. So they're leaner, but they've got much stronger foundation. So if he wants to go out and maybe do a decent sized project that's looking at appreciation, he can probably weather any storms that may come over the next few years, right? Once you got a strong foundation, we talked about this a couple shows ago, strong foundation of cash flow, then you can go after those a little bit riskier investments for appreciation. And we've dove into that. But my main point here is to don't compare, okay? I've got roughly, I don't even know. It's not important how many units or how many facilities I have, but don't get caught up when you're talking to somebody and they've got, I've got 20 storage facilities or I've got 1 million square feet of self-storage. It doesn't matter, okay? What is their cash flow? And no one talks about it. It would be nice if people talked about it more, but I get it. I get why people don't, because it's kind of peeling back the curtain. And it's, people don't really talk about what they make or what they bring home, which it would be nice if society did that, because I think we'd all learn a lot more and we wouldn't be chasing the wrong things. I see way too many people chasing, I want $100 million worth of real estate. That's great, but what does that look like? What's your cash flow look like? That's what you should be chasing. If you've already got that number dialed in to where it's like, okay, I want, for myself, I want 20% cash on cash return on any deal that I get into. If that's your metric, and then you're using that to get $100 million worth of real estate, that's fantastic, right? Then you can grow. But once you start just saying, I'm after a certain amount of units, I'm after a certain amount of real estate owned, and you don't have any metrics behind that, or you don't follow your metrics in cash on cash return, cap rates, whatever it is, that's when it's a problem. So to kind of sum all this up, this is a shorter show, but it's been on my mind for a while. And I know it kind of, I don't want to say it derailed me for a little bit, but there are definitely years where, probably years. And when I'm talking years, it's probably 1 or 2. It's not like it's a decade. I'd hear someone talk about how many square feet they have in self-storage. And I'm like, man, I need to chase that. I need to get there. But what does that look like? Right? If I'm chasing that number and I'm holding true to my metrics, then that's great. Or if I've got a solid foundation of cash flow and then chasing that, that's one thing too. And I do think some competition is good. So I don't compare to others, but if you want to kind of compete, I think that's good as long as you keep it healthy and it's not controlling your life in a negative way. So again, this is a shorter show, but just kind of want to get that off my chest. I know a lot of people are listening to people, whether they're at events, seeing gurus talk about how many units or how much real estate they own. Guys, girls, it's an empty metric. There'll always be somebody that owns more than you, that has more than you, and it's not the number you should be looking at. It's not the metric you should be looking at. It's what's your cash flow. And it's also, forgot about this, even though this is my 3rd time doing this show, what's your time freedom, right? So a lot of these gurus, these educators, these syndicators, a lot of these guys kind of pounding their chests, whether they're online or at events saying how much real estate they have. What's their time freedom, okay? What's their role in their business? That kind of tells you, without digging into things, where they're making their money, one, how much time freedom they have, or how much money they have coming in too. They just, I don't want to get too far into that, but yeah, how much cash flow, how much time freedom you have. Because at the end of the day, and actually the same buddy I was talking to, he brought this up, I think on this show, probably about a year ago. The reason we all got into real estate investing was for the time freedom, right? And then at some point, most of us kind of lose our way and just want to keep growing that I don't want to say for no reason, but it's an empty number to try to compare to others. That's not a good thing. Don't grow for the sake of growing. Grow for yourself, right? But stay true to your metrics. Stay true to what, cash flow and things that matter to you. Really, that's all I've got. Appreciate everyone listening. I believe this show airs right before Christmas. So again, appreciate everyone for listening. Enjoy time with family, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.